let's officially start today's webinar, which is going to be monitoring term-to-date data completion using the DDD Dashboard. Before we start with this webinar, let us have a look on the house rules. I know most of you are familiar with this, the officials who are joining in for the first time. Nonetheless, I'm going to go through them. The first rule here is that if you lose the signal and you leave the Zoom session, please do not worry. You can click on the link and rejoin the session as soon as your connection is restored. The second rule is that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button. These questions will be answered in the Q&A option during the presentation. Thirdly, if answers on the Q&A area are not clear, please raise your hand during the Q&A period at the end of the session, and we'll try to answer your question to the best of our ability. Fourthly, the most important one is that all our webinars are recorded. Within approximately 24 hours after the presentation, all attendees will receive attendance registers, the link to the recording, and all the slides that I'm going to use onto today's session. All attendees are on mute during the session, but if error occurs, you are requested to kindly mute yourself and avoid disturbances during the webinar. The last one, we value your feedback, ladies and gentlemen. So please take time to respond to the polls during and after the session. With that being said, let's look at the key objectives for today's webinar. We are having 3 learning objectives that we are going to be focusing on today. The first one is that we want our officials to understand how to interpret the term-to-date data task marks. Secondly, we want our officials to be able to track the progress of data captured, attendance, and task marks. Lastly, we want our officials to have an understanding on how to monitor term-to-date data completion for timely interventions. So these are the key learnings for today's session. The content overview is structured on this fashion for today. Slide 7 speaks to purpose and objective. I just did that now. And then we're going to have slide 10 to 13, which will be talking to term-to-date tab overview. And then slide 16 will be talking to understanding the task marks. Slide 19 to slide 22 will be we will be investigating the correct capturing of task name. And then lastly, slide 24, I'll be taking you to the live dashboard and focusing on term-to-date only. So this is how our session is going to be structured for today. Now, with that being said, let's start with what is term-to-date. Term-to-date is the school's weekly submission. The data that is submitted weekly will be found under this tab. It gives a summary of school's data in real time. The following data can be found under the term-to-date tab: educator attendance as of submission week, learner attendance as of submission week, task coverage, the percentage of tasks captured as of submission week. This tab can help the SMTs, subject advisors, and circuit managers to monitor the percentage of tasks captured, attendances of learners and educators. Lastly, the schools are advised to capture all their tasks as they are administered to make monitoring easy and to be able to plan interventions for those learners that need support. So in a nutshell, term-to-date tab is your school's data in real time as of last week's submission of your school. So if you want your most recent data for your school to do your intervention, then you will use the term-to-date, because the data that sits under term-to-date is as of last week's submission. Before I go into the overview of the term-to-date tab, I'm going to pause here and ask my colleague IK if we have any questions so far that needs to be addressed.
Thank you so much, Yankee, and a good afternoon to attendees. Just before I say that, I just want to inform everyone that the room is officially full. So colleagues, if your friends or your colleagues are trying to come to you to say that they are struggling to come in or they are struggling to get in, please advise them that the room is officially full. We have a capacity of 100 attendees, and we were oversubscribed. You know, even as we speak, subscription is still coming on. So we are going to be having 2 sessions tomorrow, 12 to 1 and 1 to 2. So if they are trying to log on to get into this session, please tell them to try tomorrow, logging on in the afternoon session, so they can be able to join from 1 to 2. We are having 2 sessions, 12 to 1 and 1 to 2. Back to your question. We are actually seeing a question. There's a question that came up. I've answered the question, but maybe if you have any other thing to say, Yankee, about it. It said, just a question. It's from Sandra Brown. It says the new school terms SSMs are not same as the amended school calendar. How is this going to be rectified? I have responded to it. So what I said is that I know that the team, the SSM's teams are actually working on this. There's actually going to be communicated the way they communicate through sending of the patch. So this will be communicated by DDE. But if you have any other thing to say about this, please go ahead. That's the only question we have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, IK. You've answered the official correctly. That error will be addressed through a release of a new patch, which is going to be 20.0.0.4. It will be coming live soon, and then it will be communicated to the officials as soon as the new patch is available. All right, let's continue. We are now going to focus to look into the term to date tab overview. When you log on to your school's dashboard landing page, you are going to land here on this landing page that will be having your school's name, the MIS number, and the week ending, the term to date week ending. And then you'll be having 4 tabs: the summary tab, the map, reports, and term to date. Remember, term to date is the one that we'll be focusing on for today's session. So you click on term to date, and then when you click on term to date, you are going to have this information displayed: the learner attendance as of the week of 20 March for this exercise. And then you'll have educator attendance as of the week of 20 March. This means this is the last week's submission. The attendance for educator was sitting at 95%. And then the task marks for the school as of week of 20 March. So this is the information that you will find under term to date. Now, when you scroll down, you will see an additional information, which will be the weeks, educator tab, and learners tab. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tap to each one of these tabs as they appear here. The first one is weeks. And then one thing that you'll notice next to on the weeks tab is that there is a number 10. This 10 represents the submission history for your school. This is the weekly submissions that the school has done since the beginning of the term. They have submitted 10 submissions consecutively. And if it happens for any reason at your school that there is a week that is missing here, that simply means your school did not submit for that particular week. And then as the principal, as an official, this is where you would want to start to do your investigation to establish the reasons why your school could not honor the weekly submission of that particular week. And then you might want to establish that maybe was it because the required documents for that needs to be captured on SSMs before the submission was submitted to the administrator on time. And if the information was captured correctly on those recording book. Let's take an example. Let's take an example with learner attendance. registers. They need to be submitted on every Friday in order for your school submission to go through. If there is no attendance, it will be a problem. So you might want to establish from the administrator if he or she received all the attendance registers on time, because that can also result in the administrator not being able to submit if she doesn't get all the required information on time for her submission to be successful. So these are the things that you might establish are the reasons for your school not being able to honor some of the submissions. And then the second tab that we're going to talk to is the Educator tab. And then the same with the Educator tabs, there is a 21 number next, there is a 21 number that we can see there. This number represents the number of educators at the school. At any point, if it happens that this number is not accurate, you might want to go to your SSMs and check that all the educators that are current are, that you might want to go to SSMs to verify you don't have any archived educators that are still appearing as current. And then if that's the case, you'll just have to archive the educator that needs to be archived. And then as you upload for the next week, it will be updated automatically here on the DDD Dashboard. Now, under the Educator tab, we are having 4 columns, and then each column is having a heading. The first one here is the educator name. So for this exercise here, you can see that on my slide, I'm only having the educator key. I'm not having the actual name of the educator. That is because of the POPI Act to protect the information of the individuals at the school. But you as principals, as officials, based on your levels on the dashboard, you might have access, you will have access to the names of the educators at the schools. The second column that you will see is the primary subject. So this does not mean the educator is only teaching Afrikaans or social science. In order for you to see all the subjects that are linked to the educator, you'll want to open the educator profile, and then inside their profile, you will see all the subjects that they teach. This is just one of the primary, this is just one of the subjects that the educator is teaching. And then here, as a principal, you might want to maybe make a follow-up if at your school you are having a blank spaces like this one, to establish from the administrator the reason why these educators are not having the subject linked to them. Number one, it might be because they didn't receive the allocation from the relevant SMT member, so they didn't capture the teaching load, or the allocation was not submitted to the administrator. So that might be one of the reasons. Or maybe it's a big school and then the principal is not teaching. That's why it's blank. But that you can easily make a follow-up if at your school you are having a blank spaces like this one, to check with the admins if maybe they received all the relevant information that can help them to address this error, or they didn't. The next column that we are seeing is attendance this term. So here is the attendance of all the educators for the 10 weeks of this term. And then the last one is attendance as of last week. So this column is giving us the educator attendance in real time as of last week's submission. This is how the attendance was looking at this particular school. So this is this is from the beginning of the term, and this is as of last week's attendance. This is where we are sitting. There is this educator that's having a -67. So you can easily investigate this by opening the educator profile, and then you will see the breakdown of attendance patterns for this particular educator. The next tab that we are going to talk to is the learners tab. And then we can see we are having 385 learners for this particular school. And then we are having 6 columns that speaks to the learner information. The first one is the name of the learner. And then because of POPI here on my screen, I'm only having the accession number of the learners. I don't have the actual names, but for the officials, they will have the actual names of the learners. The next column that we see is the age of the learners, the grade, the absent for the term. So this is for the 10 weeks that the school has been submitting. This is the learner's attendance. And then the next column that we see is the absent for last week. So this is the attendance for last week, the real-time attendance. Let's say maybe you are looking at this information on a Monday. So this column here will be showing you your learners' attendance as of last week Friday. Now the last column is the intervention status. Here we'll have the different recommended intervention status for all your learners. So what you can do is you can click on one of these columns, this column heading, to sort from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest. We will do that one practical when we go to the live dashboard. Before I go to the next slide, which is understanding the task marks, I would like to pause here and check with IK if we are having any questions that needs to be addressed.
Thank you so much, Yankee. I see we have a couple of questions here. I've been able to answer some, but I just left this one because they all speak they're all asking the same question, but in different form. And it's about Term 2. What do they do with Term 2 database? I'm just going to read some of them. It says here from Ross is saying, I see that there are assessments that should be recorded on SSAMs for Term 2. How is that going to work? There's another one that is from Carmen says, what do we do with second term assessment? I'll pause here for you to answer, then I would come back to the questions. Thank you.
Thanks, IK. With regards to the Term 2 assessments, the different provinces will send communications to the schools with regards to how do we capture the assessments for the learners who are not coming to the school. But as for those who are coming, we'll be able to capture them with the help of the new SSAMs page, whereby we'll just select the grades that have been attending, mainly the grade 12s and the grade 7s, and then we'll capture in attendance the assessments for those learners if any were done at the school. And then if not, because of the COVID reasons, the circuit managers will advise a way forward of what needs to happen for those learners. But the new patch is making it possible for us to capture for the grades that have been attending if they were, and then the assessments as well, by blocking all the grades that were not coming and only focusing on those that were attending and capturing for those learners who were coming. So on SSMs, we have a -1. So for those who are not coming, you can just capture the -1 option. It has been, the functionality has been added to add a -1 to all learners at once. You don't have to capture -1 except individually, but you can just click on that -1 column button, and then it will add the -1 for all the learners who are not having assessments or who are not coming to the school during the Term 2. And then those who are coming, you will capture the actual assessments that they achieved.
Thank you so much, Yankee. I have another question here, and it says from Catherine. It says, "Hi, we have extra educators linked to the DDD, but they can't be found on SSAMs. How do we correct this?" I guess this is talking about educator being captured on SSAMs and reflecting, and also I guess it's talking to archiving. So I don't know if you want to explain that. Thanks.
Yes. So if I understand you well, if the educator is archived, but they are still appearing on the DDD dashboard, I will advise that at the end of our session, the official take the help desk details, and then they send us through their database, and then we'll look into it, and then we'll provide them with feedback. But the first step will be to triple check that those educators are indeed archived on their current database. So if they are archived, I will advise them to send us the email, and then the help desk team will have a look into it, and then they will revert to them with feedback.
All right. I'll just read the last one, and we would leave. There are a couple of questions, but I just want you to continue. I'll read the last one, then we'll take the rest maybe later in the session. The other one is a comment from Sandra Brown. It says the Department of Education has given parents various options with regards to adding schools. Can this be reflected in SSMs? Come or be worried, infected, and ill. At the moment, it's just absent or present. My response to Sandra is I'm sure that the SSM's teams are actually considering this because this is a new way of work. Things needs to be changed. Updates needs to be done on SSMs, and I'm sure that they are actually considering this. But if there is any change, I'm sure they will be communicated to the various provinces, you know, the way they communicate the new patch. Thank you so much. Yankee, I would suggest that you continue. We'll leave the few questions that are here and we'll take them much later in the session. Thank you.
Okay, before I continue, I would just like to get clarity on the question that you just raised now. So the official is asking about the reasons for the learners who are not coming to school because of COVID.
No, they are actually saying that can that be infused into SSMs? Because for SSMs now we have absent and present. That's what we have now.
Okay, so the good news is for the official is that I was looking at SSMs just before the session now. The new patch, we are having those reasons now. So if it happens, the learners are not coming to school because of the COVID-related reasons, we are having about 4 or 5 COVID-related reasons as for learners for learner absenteeism. So they can just choose the relevant one if maybe it's quarantine purposes or the learner is positive. So we are having quite a few reasons now that they can choose. So I think that will be helpful. So I just thought I should put it out there so that they know that the reasons are there. Thanks, IK.
Thank you so much.
We are now going to look at we are now going to slide 16, which is understanding the task marks. So under task marks, there are several things that you can do to check if information has been captured correctly, ladies and gentlemen. And few of the things that you can do under task marks is that it allows you to investigate what task has been captured. It allows you to verify the correct capturing of a task name. It allows you to view the task completion per grade per subject. And lastly, you can drill into a grade or a subject to see more task-related information. So these are some of the things that you can do when you click on task marks pie chart at your school to check if things are being captured correctly, timelessly, to help you in return when you sit with your SMTs and educators to plan your the interventions. We are now going to look into investigating the correct capturing of a task name, how to check if the task name has been captured correctly for your school, to make it easy to plan your interventions and to support your children. So the first thing is that you need to be under term to date to do this exercise. Well, you can do it under summary tab, but our focus for today is term to date. So you first click on the task marks pie chart, the 98%, you just click on the pie chart. And then when you click on it, it is going to take you to the task marks section, this section here. And then it's going to give you an opportunity to view by grade or by subject. So you can choose the view that you want to go with. And for this exercise, I'm going to choose by subject because we want to investigate by subject. So when you click on by subject, it is going to populate all the subjects offered by the school, all the subjects that are offered by the school. And then from there, you can choose the subject that you want to investigate. For this exercise, I'm going to choose business studies. But as you can see, I'm having Afrikaans here as a subject that I can choose. I'm having accounting. So there are all the subjects offered by the school are going to be listed. And then you can just click on the subject that you want to investigate based on performance maybe, or achievement. So for this exercise, I'm going to choose business studies. Now, when you click on business studies, it's going to open a business studies subject page, meaning to say the information that you're going to be seeing from now on for the school is that of business studies alone. And then when you get to the business studies landing page, subject page, you'll scroll down to the task achievement section. And when you get here, it's going to give you all the grades that offer the business studies subject in your school. For this exercise, because business study is an FET phase subject, you can see that it's offered in grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. And then the averages, the task breakdown averages for this grade is displayed here. The grade 12 learners for task 1, they achieved 45% average. For task 2, they achieved 25.3 average. I'm going to focus mainly on grade 10 task marks. For the school task 1, when you place your mouse on this number, it's going to give you a pop-up that's going to appear with this additional information relating to this particular task. And then when you have on task 2 again, percentage, another pop-up is going to appear with additional information to this task. So we are now going to zoom in on this additional information that appears when you have on one of the two task averages, percentage averages. Now here we can see that one pop-up is highlighted in red, and then we are seeing the information for this particular task is captured incorrectly. And the other one is highlighted in green, and then we are saying the details for these task marks have been captured correct. So let's see the difference. The first thing that you'll notice is that the first task that is highlighted in red, the task name was not properly selected or flagged on SASMs for this school. So it's just saying here task 1. We don't know what is task 1 because it was not selected. So it makes it difficult for you to know learners, which task the learners performed poorly and then they need support on, because now it was not properly reflected. So if you are an official, then you'll have to check with the principal. If you are a principal, you'll have to check with either the HOD or the educator teaching the subject to get more detail on this particular subject. And then when we check furthermore, when we go down to the dates, to the due dates, we can see that this task was due on the 26th February 2020. But now the capturing date is 20 March. So this task was captured about 3 weeks later after the due date. That's why we are saying the information on this, for this activity or for this task, was not captured properly on SASMs. And then the one on the right, we are saying it was captured properly because we can clearly see this was a test. And then the due date was 16 March. It was captured on the 20 March. So it was captured a few days later after the due date. So this is how it needs to be captured. So this means at this school, at the beginning of the term, the SMT, they said with the rest of the educators at the school to plan to do their school-based program of assessment. And then the mistake that they made is that when they were done with that program of assessment for their school at the beginning of the year, they did not take it to the administrator to align SASM's program of assessment with the one of the school. Because SASM's by default at the beginning of the year, when we get a new patch, it comes with the days that are typed inside, which are default. So at any point, if it happens, those days, they differ to what we are planning at the school and what CAPS is saying. We need to align the SASM's days program of assessment with that one of our school. And then we change the dates according to our school's program of assessment. And then once that is done, it means now that the HOD will sit with the administrator to see either HOD or the educator teaching the subject will sit with the administrator and select the relevant task names, relevant topics for that particular task, and then adjust the dates according to their program of assessment. That way, once that is done, we can print the SASAM's calendar on SASAM's, and then we can paste it on our notice board in the office. The HOD can have a copy, a principal, the administrator, as well as the educator. And then this copy will be used as a reminder, maybe at the beginning of each week. All these individuals will have a look to see which tasks from which credits are due for administration on that particular week that they are starting. And then they can remind each other to say, please take note that this week there is a task that is due for your grade or for your subject. And then at any point, if it happens now that the educator and the HOD agree to change the days that was agreed upon initially, they need to communicate back to the administrator to say, on Friday, a task was supposed to be administered, but for these reasons, 1, 2, 3, we are moving it to next week so that the administrator can do the same on SASMs, so that our SASMs continues to talk to our school's program of assessment so that they continue to be in sync. And then that way, it will also be able to help us to plan our interventions. I'm going to pause here before I go to the next slide and ask my colleague Musa if we are having any questions that needs to be answered before we go to the live dashboard.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Yankee. I would actually like to attempt to connect a user who has a question and would like to ask it live. Just bear with me a second, Yankee.
Okay.
Our user's name is Christo van Veek. Christo, if you can hear us, you are live. If you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Christo, are you with us? All right, while we wait for Christo, there is another question here, Yankee, that has been typed that I'd like to read. It's around the value structure. It says, this is from Marie Binar, and she says, the database submission has not worked for a while on the value structure. It gives us a red cross and the error reads, data verification tool.jobs, etc. So only term to date works. I have shown our local MS office and now have to submit my database via email. When will this be corrected?
I will advise the official to communicate with the DDD official in the province and send them their database so that they can send it to the product team to have a look at the database, and then they will revert back to him with the feedback, because it's clear that it's a technical error either on our side or on the database. So if they can just send us the database and then the guys will have a look. If it is the value structure error, then they will attend to it and then they will provide with feedback. And if it's a database that needs the EMIS site support, we will connect with the EMIS to try and facilitate that process of getting the database fixed.
Wonderful, thank you, Yankee. It doesn't seem like I'm able to get a hold of Christo van Veek. I will hand over to IK. IK, any questions that you have noted?
Thank you so much, Yankee. Thank you so much, Musa. I can also see, Yankee, there's a question here. Someone, I think the person omitted the latest patch that you just talked about. It said, I think, okay, there's two questions, one for value structure, one for SSAMs. It says, I think 7.0.0.1 is the latest value structure patch, not SSAMs. That's from Lana. That is one. The next one, I'm just going to go put the questions that are similar together so you can actually answer them. Then the first one that I talked about is for the value structure, the 7.0.0.1. Then the other one is, has the problem with curriculum been sorted out on SSAMs? I know the patch 20.0.0 had issues. I would want you to respond to that, then I'll now go to the next one. Thank you. Yankee, can you hear me?
Thank you, IK. The problems I'm going to read here on the notes that came with the new page. So with regards to the curriculum error, they've added that function that I talked about of adding a -1 for all the learners that were not coming to the school. That's the only thing that they've added with this page. And then secondly, they have fixed the weightings for LO grade 10, grade 11, and IT grade 11. So the other things maybe that as the other errors that are still within the page, then they will be fixed with the new page that will be released in a short course. But for now, these are the curriculum related fixes that came with this page. And then, okay, go ahead, IK.
Go ahead, sorry. I actually thought you are
and
done.
Then the other one that you mentioned is that one from the official where she's saying that the vision for the latest value structure is 7.0.0.1, which is correct. It is 7.0.0.1. That's the value structure, and then the page is 20.0.0.
All right. Thank you so much. There's one question from Emily says, which interventions can be under learner attendance as seen from the previous slide?
Thank you. So this one speaks to the interventions that were discussed on our previous webinars. So on the dashboard, we are having, I will show when we go to the live one, we are having 3 different kinds of interventions that can be recommended for learners. We are having a monitor status. So those will be your learners who are doing well on their own. So the recommendation is just that they need to be monitored so that they don't drop their ball on their performance. They continue to work hard. And then the second one will be the light intervention, meaning to say these learners are doing well, but if they can get proper support, they can be moved to the monitor status. So they are not doing bad, they are not doing poor, they are just in the middle. So they just need to be pushed to get to the monitor part. Or if they are not monitored, they might fall to the immediate intervention. And then the immediate interventions are those learners who are at the risk of failing, who are at the risk of failing at the end of the year if they are not supported on time. So those are the 3 intervention types that I was talking to: the monitor, the light, and the immediate intervention. So does that answer it?
All right, thank you so much, Yankee. We got a comment we got a question from Pega. It says, do we enter dates by which the task is to be written or dates on which the task is to be captured on SSAMs to avoid the DDD reporting red on task coverage? So they're asking which date is to be captured. Is it the date it's written or the date that is captured?
Okay. So on this one, I think the SMT can agree or the police can guide us, but normally we capture a date where the task is going to be due for capturing.
All right, Yankee. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You were breaking for a while, but go on.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that the date that they need to put on. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of movement on my screen. what we normally recommend to the schools is that we put in the date when the task is going to be written, right? And then if the task is going to be written on the 15th, so the school will agree on how they do it, how to work around it, to say, after a task has been written on the 15th, we normally give our educators 4 days to do the marking, meaning to say after the 4 days, the task needs to be captured on the system. So we are going to look on when the date was was due and when it was captured. So the dates shouldn't be far from each other, meaning to say if the task is going to be administered on the 15th, then we are expecting at least within 3 or 4 days, within between 3 to 5 days, that task needs to be captured on the system. So
right.
the different schools and provinces, the SMTs in the schools can discuss on what works best for them when it comes to that.
Okay, I can see we have one of our DDD provincial manager for Gauteng, Clement. Clement, is there anything you want to add to the comments made by Yankee? Clement?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, IK. Good afternoon, everyone. So maybe just to add on what Yankee has alluded to around the program of assessment. Remember, by default, it will extract what is actually on policy as per the discussions that might have taken place the previous year. As a result, so when the new patch gets released for the new academic year, it will align to those dates. So for instance, if it indicated that on mathematics task 1 should be assessed by the 28th of February, and the school captures that task a month later, so that would mean the task was captured a few days later. So it will flag it as a challenge on the dashboard. So even though the task can be assessed at the school level according to the recommended dates, but if the data is not really captured, it's not going to allow us to see what the referencing in terms of when the task was assessed or when the task was captured. So it is important to make sure, as we are reflecting the term to date component during this webinar, to ensure that at least as schools we do not wait for the end of the term to capture data, because otherwise this functionality would be futile. So as soon as schools can assess learners, then they give them themselves ample time to capture that particular task. So that's number one. Maybe going back to the SSM's version, colleagues, currently the version that is actually been rolled out, okay, maybe in Gauteng at least, is version 20.0.1. It's 20.0.0. So version 20.1.0 is currently under development. So the patch will definitely fix the program of assessments to align with this phase-in approach, and it also indicates which tasks were not administered by a -1. And then also the exam calculation, which is a 80% and 20%. So it's what is going to be outlined on that particular page. So what is important, colleagues, to remember is that the learners are not going to be resulted for term 2. So there's not going to be exams for learners grade 4, grade R2, grade E11. So the marks is purely going to be a school-based assessment. And then going forward, maybe term 3 and term 4, then it will depend on the changes in TBE. However, there's promises that yes, the learners will be actually resulted. So learners will not be getting report cards. So there's no formal or common task for term 2. Thanks, Ike.
Thank you so much, Clement. We have still a couple of questions. We'll leave that. We'll just ask Yankee to continue. Then when we get to the Q&A, we'll be able to answer the questions. Thanks so much, colleagues. Thank you, Yankee, over to you.
Thanks, colleagues, and thanks, Clement, for mentioning that piece of that. The data needs to be captured on SASAMs as soon as it is available. It's one of the best practices that we recommend to the schools during our trainings, that as soon as the information is available, it needs to be monitored and verified by the relevant HOD and HODs, and then from there it needs to go to the principal, then to the administrator for capturing. I'm going to ask for permission to stop viewing and to go to the live dashboard, where we will be doing all the things that we have discussed on the live dashboard to see how it look, how it feels and look. So can I please have a permission to stop sharing and go to the dashboard?
Colleagues, while Yankee goes to the dashboard, I think this is a good time to mention the DDD dashboard is 0 rated for the period of lockdown, which is to say it's absolutely free. So if you're on Telkom, if you are on Vodacom, or if you're on MTN, on any of those networks, accessing the dashboard won't incur any charges. Thank you.
And also, colleagues, thank you so much, Musa. Also, colleagues, we are also soliciting your inputs. We are soliciting topics that you might be interested. While the session is going on, please engage in the Q&A or the chat box to put down topics that you feel we should be discussing in this series of webinars. So any topic that you feel you want us to discuss, please can you just put them down? We'll collate it and we would use it in our planning session for subsequent webinars. So please engage with the chat box or with the Q&A, and please put the comments that you would want us to also discuss in subsequent webinar. Thank you so much. Over to you, Yankee.
Thanks, IK and Musa. We are now on the live dashboard. Ladies and gentlemen, please know that I'm on a demo dashboard, anonymized dashboard. Because of Poppy, I'm not allowed to view the school's dashboard on publicly without the consent. So for this exercise, I'm going to use the anonymized dashboard, which is not having the term to date because it's anonymized. The term to date is available at the school level. So for this exercise, I'm going to use the task marks and the summary, because what I'm going to do on all the steps that I'm going to follow can be followed when you get to your school's term to date tab. You can do this, you can follow them. So I'm going to use task marks and a summary. But for you, when you get to your school, remember that you need to be on the term to date. So when you get to your term to date tab, you need to click on task marks. And then when you click on the task mark, it will take you to the task mark section. This section here. And then when you get to this section, it will take you to this section here. And then from here, you will be able to choose the view that you want, either by grade or by subject. And then for this exercise, we want to investigate by the subject, not by the grade. So I'm going to click on the subject. When I click on the subject, it populates all the subjects offered by the school. All the subjects offered by the school are populated here. So I'm going to choose the subject that I want to investigate. So for this exercise, I'm going to take social science as an example. When I click on social sciences, it opens a social science subject view, meaning to say all the information I'm going to be seeing from this point going forward is only of social science for this particular school alone. I'm going to scroll down to the achievement section because now I want to see the breakdown of the task and if the correct name was selected for each individual tasks. So I'm going to go to the task achievement section. This is the last part. This is the last section. When I get here, you can see that I'm only having one view that I can view by, which is by grade. So all the grades that we are seeing here are the grades that offers social sciences for the school. This means social sciences for a primary school, it is offered from grade 6 to grade 7. And then here we are having the task breakdowns averages. And then when you hover over each one of these tasks, it gives you a pop-up that we talked to lengthily. So when I place my mouse on this, on the average percentages, it tells me now that this task the task name is geography. That's how it was captured on SASEMS. And is it an exam? It was flagged as an exam. And then the weightings are there. The due date is 26 February. And then it was captured on 9 March. So this one as well, we can see that it was captured within the 10 days. After being administered, it was captured. So this is what we want to see happening at our schools. We don't want to wait for the end of the terms for the assessments, for the tasks to be captured. Immediately once the learners are assessed, and then that particular task, if it needs to be captured, then we need to capture it on the system within a certain number of days. Then when you hover on another one, on task 2 again, we can see that this task was flagged as history part on SASEMS, and then was it an exam? It was flagged as an exam. The weighting is 50. The due date was on the 16th, and then it was captured on the 9 months. The same goes for this one. For this school, they capture their assessments as they are administered. They do not wait for the end of the term. And that is what we want, so that there is a room, there is enough time to plan our interventions. And at some point, if maybe the SMT agrees that they need to be there, there is a need for a rewrite for that particular task, we still have enough time to plan for that. But now, if we wait for the 10th hour and then we administer all these tasks, all of them at once, then we are disadvantaging those learners who are struggling, because even if maybe we want to consider the possibility of a rewrite, but because of the time, we will not be able to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you investigate the correct capturing of a task name, and if the information for that particular task was captured or within the recommended time frame. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my slide. Then as I go back to my slide, I'm going to pause for IK to tell us if we are having any questions that we need to address, that need to be addressed.
All right, thank you so much, Yankee, and thank you so much for a fantastic presentation. There are some couple of questions that are here, and I believe that we are on Q&A now, officially on Q&A. So we'll be done with the questions. Also, I also want to add to my colleague Clement, if there's any question you feel you need to answer, please feel free to respond to them. The first question that I have here, I think it's either a comment or questions from Lana Skolman. He said, according to the amendments to the curriculum, there are no formal assessment for GET band, and they would not receive reports for term 2. Their marks will be captured using the one option. This is how I understood the communication. I believe Clement also has alluded to that part, so I would skip that. The next one is from Dorel Isaac. It says, my question is about the new Educator information report. How can I extract the names of teachers of one grade only? Example is grade 7 teachers only. As SES, I need the information of teachers separately for each grade. The next question is, due to COVID-19 protocols, especially the issue of social distancing, the number of classes are more than educators. As such, new classes cannot be created unless we assign teachers to those classes. So I think we should answer these two, then I'll go back to the rest.
Okay.
So the first one is saying that they just want they want to see the educator in one of the reports that we have, the new educator information report. One of the SCSs that is here said he or she wants to see a particular educator for a particular grade. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, IK, for the question. I think this question relates to some of the topics that we discussed previously. So I will have a look. I think we'll take the officials' details, and then I will have a look, and then I'll also send it to the help desk guys for assistance. But I'm sure if we take that report and then we move it to the pivot, we should be able to come up with the results that the official would want to have, the specific grade and specific educator information only. So we can have a look onto it, and we'll take their details and come back to them.
All right. Thank you so much. The other question here, it says, which patch has this new reasons of COVID-19 and when will it be released? So Yankee, I remember you talked about the new patch having reasons added. So this particular colleague, Emily, is saying which patch has the new reasons that you have alluded and when will it be released?
Ladies and gentlemen, patch, I'm going to share my screen now shortly with you. The new patch 20.00 is now available, and then it is having the reasons already. Let me just share my screen with you now. I'll be sharing my screen with you now shortly.
While Yankee is going there, colleagues, please, I can see some wonderful topics being suggested. Thank you so much. Please keep putting the topics down, and also please engage in our poll to rate the session, as this input assist us in planning and coming to you better. Every input that you've put here will be considered while we have our planning sessions. Thank you. Thank you for also putting the topics down. Please, we would require for you to put more. Thank you.
IK, can I confirm that you are seeing my screen?
Yes, I can see the screen of SSAMS. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm just going to make an example with this school. I'm going to, with this database that I'm using now, I've captured attendance for only grade 8. So this means for this school, for this school that I'm using now, I've made grade 8 attendance to be visible, and then I've blocked all the other grades, meaning to say the grade 8 is the only grade that is attending for my school for this exercise. So immediately when I click on save, it needs the reasons here. So when you scroll down, you can see that I'm having reasons here to say, let me go up. One of them here, it is this learner is not coming to the school because of the comorbidity, which is one of the COVID reasons. And then another one is, let me see for another one. We are having quite a few of them here. Illness that requires a quarantine period, you know. So they'll just have to can you see my screen, IK? And the reason that I'm viewing now. So
yes,
this is only a few that I can quickly share with our officials that they can choose from. So you can choose maybe either for illness that requires a quarantine period, or maybe for comorbidity, and then you just save the reasons, and then you should be good to go. So I would say I will just recommend that to the officials that when they get back to their school, they just make sure that they are running the latest patch of SSM's 20.0.0 and all the reasons that they need to capture on the learner attendance and educator attendance are there already. I hope this answers the official's question.
Thank you so much, Clem. Thank you so much, Yankee. I can see, I think because of this SSAMs, we are now having comments saying, can we expand also to SSAMs training? Colleagues, we are actually focusing on the triple D, but we'll be working in future to either bring someone from the SSM's team to come here and also answer those pressing questions that we would not be able to answer, but we'll definitely communicate to you in the communication that goes out for the webinars to tell you when we are bringing an SSM personality to answer those questions. There's also other questions here, colleagues. We have officially reached the time for the close of the webinar, but we are just making time to answer questions, so colleagues will not go out of this webinar not being satisfied or not their questions not being answered. So we are actually taking time to answer this. Also, I can see comments about the slides and all that. The people are asking that, their friends jumped off, they had network issues. Colleagues, the slides will be sent to you 24 hours after the webinar. So the slides, the attendance register, the link to the audio video recording of this webinar would also be sent to everyone. Someone says here, DDD shows a due date. It's Serelda Week says DDD shows a due date, and on the DDD report, it reports marks are on time behind. How do we when the marks has to be captured? Okay, I don't get that question very well. If Serelda is here, we can give her the access to speak. Musa, if you can check for her while I read the other questions. Another question is saying here, attendance register cannot be done properly with the current term dates. How do we overcome filling in the attendance when grade 12s and teachers are coming to school within the current holiday period? Another question, before you answer that, another question from Tracy says, is the due date the date the task was completed by the learners? If so, what happens in the case of a task completed on different days for different classes? Thank you. Clement, if you want to answer any, please, you are also free to answer. Thank you.
If I could just come in for a second, colleagues, and just remind us of the polls data. I can see we of course come to the end of the session. If I could just point your attention to the polls at the bottom of the screen. If you could click there and answer those questions, it will greatly assist us to improve these sessions. And while I still have the line, I'm going to try to connect Sorelda and see if she can better formulate the question that we read from her. Sorelda, you are live. Can you hear us? Sorelda, are you there? Okay, while we wait for Sorelda, I'm gonna hand over to Yankee and Clement to perhaps respond to some of the questions we've had.
Yankee?
I'm here. I'm just going through some of the questions.
Okay, all right. And also, while you're still going through the questions, I can see Carmen is asking when tomorrow's webinar is going to be. So Carmen, we have webinars for tomorrow the same time, but we have an additional one from 1 to 2 o'clock because we have a couple of attendees that were kicked out because we got to the capacity of 100. So those that are kicked out can join the 1 to 2 o'clock session that we have tomorrow. Thank you. Yankee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm going to respond to Sorelda Weeks. So the question is, DDD shows a due date on the DDD report. It reports marks are on time or behind. How do we do when the marks has to be captured? So this one, what we are recommending is that as soon as we administer the tasks, and then the educator finishes marking. The results, the learner's results needs to be submitted to the administrators for capturing. And then as indicated earlier, we recommend that this needs to happen within maybe 3 to 5 working days, and then the marks needs to be captured on SASMs. So it's going to flag it as red if we capture the assessment that was due on the first week of the month, and then we are capturing them on in the middle of the new month. So they are going to be flagged red. So to avoid that, it's best to capture the results within a week after administering the task. I hope that answers Cyril Dawick's questions.
Thank you for that response, Yankee. Sorry to cut in like that, I do also have Mzwaki Skosana, who raised his hand earlier and then lowered it, but I see it's up again. I'm going to see if he'll be successful in connecting with us. Mzwaki, you are live. Can you hear us? Mzwaki, go ahead and unmute yourself in the bottom left corner. There you go. Hi, Mzwaki.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Very good, sir.
Find
Please
yourself,
go ahead with your
Mzwaki.
question. Thanks.
Yeah, earlier on you indicated that accessing the dashboard is zero rated if you are on Telkom and MTN. What about other networks?
Yeah, a very good question, Mzwaki. So we are available on Telkom, MTN, and Vodacom. If I may ask, which is your network?
It's Vodacom.
Yes, so for Vodacom, you are also more than able to access the dashboard for free.
Okay, no, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, sir.
Musa, I also want to answer Carmen Biljon. His question is around how do we enter absenteeism of learners as the schools has divided the learners into groups, meaning to say we know that they are coming in groups. Once some learners come like 6 days in a month. So this one, the directive needs to come from the province or the district on how they are going to do it. But on SASMs, we have the reasons there already. So if maybe the reason will be that the learners is not at the school because of splitting, then the reason is there to be selected. I just think that the district will provide a clear communication to the schools on how to capture that, because that is the reality at the moment. But with regards to the reasons, we have the reasons on SASMs. We just want the district and provinces to confirm how do they want that information to be captured, so that the schools are doing a uniformed, they are having a uniform response to that on SASMs. We are not having schools choosing different reasons, but on SASMs we have the reasons. We just want hope that soon the different provinces and districts will send communication to their schools on how to capture the learners who are alternating throughout the month. I hope that covers your question, Carmen.
All right, thank you so much, Yankee. I can also see a lot of the questions that are coming up are topics that we have talked about in our previous webinar. So most of the topics, most of the questions that are coming up are not topics that are directly aligned to the topic that we are talking about. People talking about how do we get the reports on educator information, talking about interventions. Those are topics that we have talked about previously. So if you wish or you want to have those pack or those information, the slides, the link to those webinars, please send an email to the DDD. So it's help@dbe-dashboard.co.za. help@dbe-dashboard.co.za. Thanks. I wanted to ask you to just come to this page, Yankee, so they can see. And also, colleagues, this page, you see your provincial DDD managers that are in the provinces. So you can take this a step further by contacting them and requesting for further assistance. And by the right, you will see the email and the phone number. number. So for those that were not answered today, please, you can channel your questions to the email, or you can call, or you can email any of your provincial Triple D managers, and they'll assist you. Also, I can see people joining now because we have some members, some attendees that have gone off. We have new members, one saying that he or she just joined by 12. Don't worry, we have the same webinar tomorrow, the same time. We have 12 to 1 and we have 1 to 2. So the 1 to 2 is for those that have been kicked out for this webinar, and we'll be sending you the link, because we'll get your details from Zoom for those that have been kicked out. Then we'll be sending you an email with the new link. Please register to attend. And we have seen that we have a high influx when it comes to school level. So perhaps we'll be working to try and see if we can get one of the department officials to be in one of these sessions to be able to give clarity to the burning questions that we have. Thank you so much. Over to you, Yankee.
Okay, thanks, IK. I would also like to respond to Sandra Brown if she's still around. So her question is that when we input data or into SASMs, when is it reflected on the dashboard, weekly or at the end of the term? Thanks for this question. So when you submit your data to the dashboard, we are having two different submissions. We are having the weekly one, meaning to say every Friday when you submit, your data should be available on the dashboard within the next day or within the next 24 hours. When you submit on a Friday, on a Saturday, when you log on onto your school's database, under term to date, that week's submission should be there. And then the second submission that we have is the end of the term submission. So this is the submission for a holistic term. This happens once at the end of the term. So this means for final term submission, we are having 4 submissions. We're having the submission at the end of the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. Those are the 4 final term submissions. And then from there, we are having the weekly ones, which is term to date. That happens every Friday throughout the year. Every Friday, our schools are submitting. And then at the end of the term, we do our final submission. And before we do this final submission at the end of the term, all the relevant information for that particular term must be captured on the system already, so that when you submit your final term information, it's not having the missing data. Everything is captured. Thank you. If Sandra is here, I think I've answered her question. Yeah. IK, I think we need to close out today's session. I know we are having quite a few questions that are still open. I don't know, what do you suggest we do, guys? IK, Musa?
I think the questions will be answered, but we need to officially close the session while we take our time to answer the questions individually, because the session has gone way above the time. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for making time to join this week's webinar. And then for those for those of us who have received calls from the colleagues not being able to join, please advise them to join in tomorrow. We are going to have 2 sessions. The first one is going to start at 12 until 1. And then the second one is going to start at 1 o'clock until 2. So this to make sure that we cover all our officials who have registered to take part on these webinars. With that being said, thank you very much for your time from my side. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues to give you their closing remarks, and then we'll officially close the session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much from my side. Thank you so much, Yankee. Thank you so much, Musa. Thank you so much, Clement. Colleagues, thank you. I would, from my side, thank you so much for joining. Please always register to attend, and when you want to attend on time. So what happened today would not happen. But thank you so much. See you tomorrow, same time. We're also having another one, 1 to 2 o'clock. Thank you so much.
All right, closing remarks, colleagues. We are quite aware that a number of us were not able to join sessions, and we are working in the background to ensure that in the future we have capacity and strategies to make sure that we all join. And want to thank you for attending, and want to really appreciate Yankee for a very robust and informative session and presentation today, and Clement as well for assisting. Thank you to all the colleagues. I hand over back to you, Yankee.